There's a moment that almost everyone recognizes, even if they've never talked about it out loud. You open your banking app not because you need to, but because checking it has become a reflex. And there it is, 20,000. Not invested, not theoretical, just sitting there. For the first time, your savings account starts with a 2, 4 zeros after it. A clean, even number, a number that feels different. You stare at it a little bit longer than necessary, and something subtle happens. Your shoulders drop, your breathing slows. You begin to imagine a slightly upgraded version of your life, a better apartment, a real vacation, a car that doesn't sound like it's auditioning for the junkyard. What's interesting isn't the number itself, it's what the number does to you. Because 20,000 is rarely life-changing in a mathematical sense. It's often life-changing psychologically. And that psychological shift sets off a chain reaction most people don't see coming. To understand why this number feels so powerful, it helps to look at what comes before it. For most people, the early phase of saving feels futile. You scrape together a few dollars, then a few $100s, then a few thousand. And almost immediately life intervenes. You need a car repair, a new medical bill, or a rent increase from your landlord. The money disappears and you're back where you started. This pattern is so common that people internalize it. They conclude, wrongly, that they're bad at saving. But if you zoom out just a little bit, the entire picture changes. In the US, the average personal saving rate hovers around 4 or 5%. If that seems really low, you're right. The system is designed so that most households operate with very little slack. So when finally somebody accumulates 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 19,000, 20,000, it feels miraculous. It's completely against the odds. And you escape constant fragility. And that's why the brain interprets this moment as a finish line. But it isn't. It's a transition point, and transitions are where behavior changes the fastest, and often most destructively. Here's the part that doesn't get discussed almost never. The moment your finances look stable, the environment around you changes in subtle ways. Your bank upgrades you. Your credit card limits rise. Your investing app unlocks advanced tools. You start seeing ads in your feed reflecting a new version of you, someone who travels more, drives nicer cars, and lives in better places. At the same time, the Federal Reserve reports that about 37% of adults cannot cover a $400 emergency with cash. And that means that by reaching the mythical 20,000 savings threshold, you've crossed a psychological boundary that most people never do. And institutions notice that as well. Here's the reality. Banks cannot make money from people who are broke. And they don't make much money from people who are truly wealthy, because those people don't need to take out loans and pay interest. They make money from people in the middle, people who look stable, but can still be persuaded to take out a loan. This is the moment when the system starts leaning in and working against your own interest. Here's a counterintuitive fact. Many people who hit 20,000 have less savings a year later. It's not because they stop caring about money or finances, but because they completely misinterpret what just happened to them. They assume that the hard part is over, so they relax. They fix problems they deferred before, and they upgrade a few things. They say yes just a little bit more often, sometimes out of relief, sometimes as a reward for their hard-earned savings. And none of these decisions are actually reckless. That's what makes the pattern so difficult to notice yourself. There is no single mistake to pin it on, just a series of reasonable choices made without a new rule set. The savings do get used just like you intended, but without defining a new floor, you're setting a trap for yourself. And once you breach the floor again, the anxiety quietly returns. People do not fail at this stage because they're irresponsible. They fail because the rules changed and nobody told them. Compounding is usually described as a force of nature. It's automatic. It's inevitable. But it is only automatic if your money stays put, invested. When balances are small, growth doesn't matter much. A 10% return on $2,000 is $200. That's barely perceptible. At the beginning, most of your returns come from the savings that you put in yourself. At 20,000, the same return is 2,000 a year. Now it's noticeable. It's a moderate vacation. And this is where everything changes, but only if the money is left alone. Here's the problem. Many people keep dipping into the pile. You worked hard to save it. Surely you deserve some of that money as a benefit. And so what happens is the account grows and then shrinks, then grows again, then shrinks again. From the outside, it looks like stagnation. But from the inside, it feels different. It feels like you're having some bad luck. But what's actually happening is interruption. Compounding itself isn't fragile, but it is not forgiving either. It needs continuity to work well. If you break that continuity often enough, and the math never gets traction, you will not get anywhere. There is another force at work here, and it has nothing to do with numbers. For years, you've been the careful one. You packed lunches from home, you skipped trips with friends, you avoided upgrading your lifestyle, and you felt slightly behind. Then you hit that magical 20,000, and something shifts in how you see yourself. Now, I'm good with money. That identity is very powerful and very dangerous, because your identity can adjust faster than the systems can. If you lose your habits before you build new safeguards, your fixed costs will creep up. Your lifestyle will expand just enough to absorb the margin you worked so hard to create. This isn't greed, it's normalization. You are not trying to get rich. You're just trying to feel ordinary compared to your peers. So once your finances stabilize, you become really profitable to other businesses. Auto lenders offer monthly payments that disguise long-term costs with a better interest rate. Credit cards advertise rewards that pale next to the interest rates that they would charge you if you miss one payment or carry a balance. Suddenly, a world of investment products opens up to you that charge slightly higher fees in exchange for the illusion of benefit. Each decision feels isolated and safe, but together they function like a slow leak. For example, the average car payment in the US right now in 2026 is $745 a month. And new vehicles typically lose 20% of their value in the first year. So when you take out that new car loan, not only are you paying interest, you end up with less for it than you start with. And credit card rates hover around 24-25%. That is insane. And it is not unusual for an actively managed investment fund to charge you 50 or 60 times more than a simple index fund every year, forever. None of this feels catastrophic in the moment, and that's exactly why it works against you. The people who keep their momentum after 20,000 do one thing differently. They stop thinking of their savings as a single pile. Instead, they divide it into different layers. There's the basic floor, money you do not go below except for true emergencies, like you need to go to a hospital, or suddenly your car died and you need to replace it. Above that is the layer of growth. It's boring, long-term investments designed to compound over years and decades. Above that is the fun and optionality. It's the money meant to be spent, the money you saved to be enjoyed, or money used to further your situation, maybe go back to school or get additional certification to change your career direction. This structure does something subtle but critical. It allows you to enjoy your savings without creating destabilization. You're finally able to live your life without accidentally, unknowingly sabotaging it. Once people see the real money in their account, they often ask the same question: how do I make it go faster? And the internet has many answers, options, meme stocks, leverage, stories of improbable wins. Like that guy who turned 50,000 into 5 million in 3 months. But here's the data point that matters most. The average investor consistently underperforms the market index fund. Not because they lack intelligence, but because volatility triggers emotional decisions. When swings get large enough, people cannot but react. The solution isn't zero risk, it's contained risk. Risk, whatever you take on, should never threaten your floor. Imagine two people who both hit 20,000 in their early or mid 30s. They treat it as a proof that they've arrived. They upgrade their life. Their savings oscillate back and forth. But work remains mandatory. The other people treat it as a boundary. They protect it. The growth builds quietly and slowly in the background. But over time, their flexibility increases significantly. And 10 years later, by their 40s, their incomes might be very similar, but their freedom is worlds apart. One person will end up negotiating life from the point of anxiety and worrying about money, and the other person will negotiate it from the point of options and availability of safety net. Nobody talks about this, but many people will encounter this number at some point throughout their life, either through persistence, luck like an inheritance, or just good timing in the market. The question isn't whether you'll reach that number or not. At some point in your life, you will. It's whether you will treat it properly and understand what it really means. 20,000 isn't wealth. It isn't security forever, and it isn't the end. For many people, it's about 3 to 6 months of their life expenses. Useful, but definitely not life-changing if you encounter a layoff unexpectedly. It's the moment when your decisions start compounding just as much as the money you put in does. And whether life gets easier from here has less to do with the number itself, and everything to do with what you decide it means for you. Thank you.